Most of us often chase rather pumps than established memes. And a green candle is somehow spoiled for us until it's screenshot. We stare at charts, forgetting it changes nothing. We watch charts, but not ourselves. This is a disaster. For as a result of confusing dopamine hits with actual profit, we are destroying our net worth. We are so tied up in FOMO and charts that we've lost all conviction. Time to wake up. What is alpha? Obviously, nobody can say, because it isn't just drawing lines on charts. It isn't rotation meta, that's just an idea. Alpha is the Giga cycle cannot be explained in words.
Yo, what's good, bro?
Let's go. How
I
we
love
doing,
that video,
Sean?
man.
Yeah, that video gets me hyped.
I'm great, bro. Just did some pranayama, sun my nuts at the pool, hitting that Giga Motion, dude. How are you doing, bro?
Good. What do you got in that cup, dog?
What do I got? What don't I have in that cup? Let's save us some time. No, I got ashwagandha, cordyceps, lime. Well, the base is yerba mate. I don't do coffee anymore. I'm a yerba mate guy. I find it's a lot more cleaner on the uptake, a lot less of a decline. I can drink a lot more of it. It feels better for my skin. Nothing against coffee. I still do coffee as like kind of a special occasion on the weekends or whatever it is. But yerba mate is my primary caffeinated stimulant. And so I got ashwagandha, cordyceps, lion mane, reishi, chaga mixed in there. Some adaptogenic goodness. And I also just stacked some nootropics too. We'll do another episode, dive deep into that. But I took a very basic stack. So butamine, Noopept, alpha GPC.
Love that. Love that. I'm just drinking some hydration packet.
Boring.
I know. Not as good. So yeah, let's we'll wait.
Oh, hey, I got bad news for you before we start.
What?
I just checked the scale. 202.
Do something to do something, dog.
202. Eat big to get big.
Dude, I'll never forget that, man. It still haunts me to this day. I'm like 184 right now. I checked this morning.
Oh, bro, what are we doing here, man?
I know, Blue's killing me, calling me out, making me run, man.
How tall are you?
Truthfully, 5'11". What do I tell them?
You're actually 5'10", that means.
No, I'm actually 5'11". I say I'm 6 foot though.
Yeah.
But
I'm 5'11" on my Tinder portfolio, which means I'm 5'10".
Dude, I remember when I was on Wall Street, my boss was like not a tall. He was like 5'7", and he would put 6 foot on the websites, right? And when the women would see him, they'd be like, "I thought you were 6 foot." He goes, "I am when I stand on my wallet." I was like,
I'm the tallest person in Oz.
So let's see how many people we got. Some people watching.
No big deal. 49, kind of big deal.
Gang, I see Tim to Kill. That is the homie. He's the man behind the magic at Pond Talk. Him and LFG. Great guy. I actually hopped on the space with him today. He helped me backstage on StreamYard. Loved him.
Boy, did we need it. There's a lot of nuance. People don't see the production behind the StreamYard, the ones and twos.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so...
Shout out to Pond Talk, though. I really like those guys.
Oh, yeah, the best, man. For real. A lot of inspiration from those guys. So I want to start with this, right? Shine or myself are not scientists, doctors, clinicians, right? We are simply two enthusiasts that love fitness and biohacking with the main goal of helping ourselves and others just get healthy, right? Any type of supplements you're ever going to take, you got to do your own research, consult a doctor, all that good stuff. Never just take something because someone told you to. Don't be a child. But with that being said, I'm super pumped for tonight, dude. This topic is great. Peptides, they are really hot on the press right now. I'd say they're kind of the biggest thing in the health and fitness sector. And I think we're both going to go through our journey with peptides, what we learned along the way. We've both taken them. Shine's taken them way more than me, knows more. That's why I'm really excited about this. I'm going to get to learn a bunch today too. But for me, I got to lead with this. You have to earn your optimization, right? Whether it's peptides, hormones, these are not magic shortcuts, right? I look at them as like amplifiers to a solid foundation. And you got to master the basics first, right? Because when you do that, you'll take what you would get, marginal gains that you would get, turn into monumental ones with these, advanced supplements like this. So for most people, myself included, we underestimate the compounding effects of just like chronic low stress and inadequate sleep. I could tell you that one firsthand. Like you could be working out hard, eating clean, but if you're constantly running on fumes and you're battling these internal stresses, what happens is your body's in a survival state. It's not in a thriving state. And I think that's a big deal. So for me, consistent high quality sleep and like effective stress management techniques, right? So whether it's breath work, meditation, I think that stuff is a must, right? And then the next thing is high quality diet. And I think a lot of people overcomplicate this. I think it's just whole foods, right? Focus on whole foods, focus on protein, cut the processed crap out. And then it's an effective workout program. And this is another one where I think people fall short because I'm not saying go to the gym and do 3 sets of 10, right? I don't think that's not the answer, right? You got to have some cardio in there for heart elasticity, whether that's some type of jogging, a sport that you like to play. And that it also includes like your basic walk a few times a week. Go enjoy life. Go for a walk, right? That low heart rate cardio is actually incredible for stress reduction and just general cardiovascular health. But then you also have to add in some high intensity training, which I actually personally love. And the reason you do that is it improves your body's oxygen handling capacity, right? Something we call VO2 max. And for me, I like to do sprints on the rowing machine, sprints on the assault bike. Those things take your soul. And then finally, you got to pick up some heavy shit, That's just how it works. It helps for bone density, right? I'm pretty sure you might be able to answer this, Shine. That is the only way to stop osteoporosis, right? That is picking up heavy weights over time. That is what they've found. Tons of studies on that. And then lastly, what I like to call is the life stuff, man. Got to have a good life, right? You got to have a good family relationship, and you got to have a strong sense of purpose. All these longevity studies that they do in these blue zones, right? There's like a common thread amongst all of them, and it's connection and purpose are vital to all of these people living over 100 years old. I think that's really interesting. So I think like once you get all those things down, then you'll get the optimal results out of these peptides or these supplements. And I can tell you this from firsthand experience, right? So I've taken peptides twice now. The first time I took them was 2 years ago, right? And I had just left my job in New York City, right? Walked away from a great job. I moved upstate. My daughter was 3 months old, so I was getting 3 hours of sleep a day. I was super stressed because I didn't have a job. I didn't know how I was going to make money. And I took BPC-157 and then TB, and I saw nothing. Felt no results, saw no results. And then you fast forward to I am 3 weeks into my second time taking BPC-157, but this time I have a healthy morning routine. I get good sleep. I have a good diet, aside from the cutlets. And I've had incredible results. I feel great. When I'm in the gym, I look great. And I just feel like that really solidified it to me. It's that these things are optimizers, amplifiers, but they only work if you have a good foundation. And intuitively, that makes a lot of sense, right? You could put millions of dollars on the exterior of a house. If the foundation's cracked, it's going to come down either way, right? And that's kind of what I took away from my experience with peptides so far. Now, what about you, Sean? When did you get into these?
Well, before we say that, I want to reiterate and just say you nailed everything there. I like to post like pictures of me just being jacked and stuff, right? The goal is not to be jacked though. Being jacked is the side product of doing stuff you really like. So I always recommend to people when you're starting your fitness journey, because it's not about like being that. Maybe that's not a version of a Giga Chad. Maybe you don't want that, right? One thing I would suggest is try things that you're uncomfortable with. At least try them. Maybe you're repulsed by lifting weights because you are. Maybe try it. Do it once or twice. If you absolutely hate it, you don't resonate with it, then don't do it. Maybe something else. Maybe you used to play sports. Maybe you want to go swimming. Maybe you want to do yoga. Maybe a Giga Chad to you. Health and fitness and wellness is for everyone. It's not just for meatheads, right? Being jacked, looking good, that is just the byproduct of being able to do cool shit within your body. You may want to be a yogi. You may want to be a dancer, whatever it is. But health and wellness, that's for everybody. Because the healthier you are, the better life you're going to have, the better decisions you're going to make, the better your mind is going to. We talked about this last time. That's Socrates, Marcus Aurelius, all of these guys, they were Olympic medalists. These are some of the greatest minds, not only of their time, but some of the greatest leaders, some of the greatest philosophers whose work we still use to this day. They didn't see body and mind and spirit as being separate. They saw them as one piece, one entity that worked together. So I would just say, try stuff. Go to a Pilates class, go to a gym, go to a deadlifting class, whatever it is, right? A powerlifting class, whatever it is, try it. Get outside of your comfort zone and then see, do you not like it because it's hard, or do you actually not resonate with it? And if it's the former, that means you should do it even more. The same reason I do cold plunges every single morning. Why? Because I'm instilling that discipline, and that discipline I instill, being able, as Joe Rogan would say, of conquering your inner bitch. That's a skill that you're going to be able to use in every single aspect of your life. Because guess what? So the energy and the effort that you put in the gym, how you do one thing is how you do everything. How you show up. I see people, and you can see it in the gym. You can see wherever it is. The people that are actually there, focused, putting in the work, you can see the difference with how they look and how the people that just do it haphazardly. Again, how you do one thing is how you do everything. So I just want you guys to know that being a Giga Chad, this phrase, because I know sometimes when people say, be the fucking man, they see that as some toxic masculinity shit. It's not. Being the man isn't one person's idea of what the man is. Being a Giga Chad isn't one person's idea of being what the Giga Chad. Health and wellness and fitness and being the man, that just means being the woman, that just means the best version of yourself. And only you know that. Yep. But health and wellness is for everyone. For everyone who wants to live a life, for everyone who wants to live their best life, and everyone wants to realize, and everyone that wants to realize their full potential.
Nah, well said, dude. And that reminded me of something Goggins said, right? You got to get comfortable being uncomfortable. And I think there's something to that, especially now. We get stuck in these loops of just staying comfortable, right? We don't get outside our comfort zone, and you don't grow like that. And, that's working out. And it's also, like trying these different supplements. Do some research. People are afraid to research things now, I don't know it. I'm not gonna learn about it. And it's like, man, you're never going to grow. Period, in your life. Like, do some research. Like, after we're done with this stream, go see if some peptides are for you. Go out there, learn some stuff, and that is, health is all encompassing, man. It really is. It's mind, body, and spirit, for sure. No, I love that, dude.
Quick little anecdote with that. So I come from a circus background. I did that for 10 years. I was a professional performer, acrobat. I was doing this circus course in Australia. There was a ballet class. I despised it. I hated it. I did not want to do ballet. And my coach, he was Australian, right? So he looked at me and goes, John, I know you fucking hate it, mate. I hated it too. But trust me, you do the fucking class, it's going to improve. And it did. And that was just one example of how doing something that I didn't. And hey, I'm not saying, I'm not saying you need to go do ballet. I'm just using that as an example. That was something that I really didn't want to do, that put me outside of my comfort zone. But because I took it seriously, I was able to grow in other aspects of my life.
Yeah, I love that. I just wanted us both to lead with that because I think it's important to get the foundation. Got to build the foundation strong, man. You can't. I don't want people to come in here and think they're going to take peptides and they're going to feel good and they're going to look great in 3 weeks. That's not how this works. anything worth it in this life, you got to earn it. Health's included, man.
I do.
But
I know
yeah,
people that have done giant steroid cycles and still completely looked like shit. They thought it was just this magic pill that they could take it and they would get these instant results, because that's what people think when they see enhanced people. They go, oh, well, if I took that, I would look like. No, they're just giving you the ability and the tools to recover quicker, to sleep better, to regenerate tissue easier. You still have to put in the work. You still have to build the foundation. And like you said, man, if you don't address all of these things first, it'd be like putting spinners on your car and you haven't changed the fucking oil in a year or 2 years. Okay, you have fancy spinners. Your car doesn't work still.
Yep. No, exactly. So when did you? Because I know we've talked before. That was very interesting. You've been taking peptides. You started like over a decade ago, which is that just shows how deep in the weeds of this biohacking you are. You were on some forums, man. I love that. So how did you come across them?
Yeah, I've been deep. I've been deep in this stuff for a long time, like nootropics, peptides, you name it. I first found nootropics. Separate topic. We'll leave a little cliffhanger for the whole nootropics episode. I found modafinil and nootropics in, I think, 2009 is when I first started building my own nootropic stacks. I first found out about BPC-157. Must have been 2012, 2013. So yeah, going on 10, 11, or 12 years now.
Wow. So how was your first experience with it?
My first experience was amazing, man. So the reason I got into BPC, which is one of the peptides that we're going to be focused on most, because besides, Ozempic, semaglutide, and those things, it is the second most popular peptide to date. And the reason I found it is the reason most people find it, to heal injuries. These are incredibly good at healing injuries. Quick little story. I was in Bali. I was driving home from a fire performance. I hit something in the middle of the road going about 70 kilometers an hour, flipped over my bike. Fortunately, I'd been training parkour, cracked my head, did a parkour roll, jacked up my elbow. I'll never forget the look on my friend's face as he saw me on the middle of the road thinking I was dead. He goes to pull me off the road, hits the accelerator on the bike. The bike goes flying in the ditch. I'm hyperventilating. Somehow, I guess he was in shock as well. He asked me if I could drive the rest of the way home. So now I'm driving my scooter, one arm, the rest of the way home, hyperventilating. We finally get to the house. He goes, "Are you okay? Do you want to go to the hospital?" I said, "I'm just going to sleep it off." I go in my room. I go to take a deep breath and lean up against the wall and say, "Oh, thank God I'm alive." Only it wasn't the wall. It was the window. And the window was open. And I proceeded to fall backwards 10 feet down into the jungle. As I'm falling down, I shit you not, I see myself third person like a cartoon falling out this window. I fall on the exact same spot. And now I am in the jungle in my shorts, laughing and crying like the Joker. I'm laughing because I cannot not think it's funny that I fell. It's so funny to me that I fell out the window, but I'm in so much pain. And then I start jungle crawling up, one arm through the army crawling up, one arm through the jungle. It pulls down my shorts. I'm now in my underwear. I'm bleeding. I'm crying. I'm like, my friends are like, "Are you okay? Do you want to go to the hospital?" I'm like, I'll go tomorrow. I'll go tomorrow. And then the next day in the morning, I was actually at a circus retreat center, and they're like, "You have to go to the hospital now." I'm like, "Can I just wait until the Cirque du Soleil clown is done teaching his workshop?" They're like, "No, you have to go. You have to go now." So I missed the clowning workshop. Long story short, I broke my collarbone.
So it collarbone. Oh, that's a tough one.
Incredibly painful injury.
Yeah, it's a tough one.
One of the most painful breaks I had, because it hurt sitting down, it hurt lying down, it hurt walking, everything hurt. Did I still proceed to wake up at 6 a.m. every morning and teach a fitness class with one arm, barely able to walk for the next 2 months? Yes. Is that a part of the story right now? No. Did I do a fire performance 3 days later with my arm taped up? Yes. Again, I digress. A few months later, my collarbone heals. But I'm doing acrobatics, I'm doing circus, I'm doing street shows, and I'm still having chronic shooting pain in this injury. I'm doing those like flag pulls and stuff. Every time I do that, it just really, really hurts. I can't remember how, but somehow through my forums, through my sleuthing, through my 4chan, I end up discovering BPC. And I run BPC for about 2 weeks. The pain's gone. It just goes, it left, one cycle, never came back again. As soon as I tried that about a decade ago, I said, wow, there really, really is something to this.
So that was your intro into peptides, and
It was
that
a
was your
great
first
intro.
one.
Yeah.
Awesome. Now, were you doing like the basic dosage? You're actually way more educated on this than me with the dosages. So, were you
Well,
doing?
before we do that, why don't we explain really quickly what
Yeah,
peptides are?
yeah,
Do you
good
remember?
idea.
Why don't you
Oh,
take
I
this?
remember.
You're
So,
like an encyclopedia.
peptides, first of all, they're made within our body, right? They're endogenous to our body. We have over 300,000 peptides inside of us, and medically, there's only 150 of them made, right? So, to give you an idea of where we are on the forefront of this, we are at the frontier. We're just starting. And really, what a peptide is just amino acids, right? So, if it's less than 41 or 42 amino acids, it's considered a peptide. If it's more, it's considered a protein. That's all it is. It's nothing crazy scientific or molecular. Like I said, neither of us are scientists, so we're not going to get into the molecular stuff anyway. But yeah, peptides are basically just a chain of amino acids that are a little smaller than a protein. And that's kind of the basis of peptides. And then there is, like I said, 300,000 of them in our body. So we're really just kind of on the forefront. There's a ton of different ones that you could use for nootropics, to gut health, to regeneration, like BPC-157. But yeah, we'll start with BPC-157 because I would say it's definitely the most popular. It's also known as like the Wolverine peptide because of the healing properties of it, right? It actually has a really unique ability to heal tendons and ligaments, which you won't get from like your basic test sip, right? That doesn't do that. In fact, it would be damaging to try to inject test sip into an injured ligament or tendon, where BPC-157 actually helps that. And that's kind of like a unique trait to BPC-157 for athletes with injuries or regular people with injuries like Shine just said he had. It's definitely helping. I have a torn labrum in my shoulder that for the last year and a half has been terrible. It still flares up, but since I've been on this cycle, I could lift way better. I used to be able to sometimes some angles it would just fall. Like I just wouldn't be able to pick up a 10-pound kettlebell. Like it was terrible. So yeah, BPC 157 is what they call regeneration, right? I think it's tissue too and ligaments.
Yep.
But the dosage is what's really interesting about these peptides is it's one of the first times in medicine where, because of the lack of data, there really hasn't been found any real downsides. You know, like usually when you take a medicine, there's a laundry list of negative effects that could happen. But done at the right dosages, there really is very little. You know, the risk reward is great. You know, I had a cool doctor tell me, he goes, I'm going to be honest with you, I don't know much about this, but all the athletes at Syracuse University take it. So I would say the only downside is it'll cost money. And I was like, that's interesting. That's an interesting way to put it. So I think that's why they are kind of superior to tests in a lot of ways, because there is side effects to taking tests, like especially those dosages. You mess that up, you could have some real health effects from that.
Been there. Been there. No, the one other very interesting thing with BPC, right? BPC, to our knowledge, from what they've found, it's the only peptide so far that they've resynthesized that we've found is actually endogenously created. So all of these peptides we're talking about right now are exogenous. BPC, they actually find it in the gut. So your body knows exactly what it is because it naturally creates it. So we know at least at small amounts, there's obviously no long-term effects. I do want to make a caveat. I want to double down on Mr. Mangione's that, you know, we're just passionate bros. We just love this stuff. We're not doctors. We're not scientists. I don't think anyone's looking at me right now thinking I'm a doctor, but I figured I would just reiterate that, because any of this new technology that's coming out, whether that's SARMs, whether that's peptides, you know, whether that's ADD medication, there's no long-term studies on these yet. Okay, so you have to treat all of this like exploration, and no one can honestly say just because we haven't found any negative effects yet, that doesn't mean there won't be anything found later in the long term. We don't know that. This is all, consider it very experimental science.
And in terms of bioavailability, I see a comment in there. That matters whether you take it through through an injection or through oral, right?
Oh, I'm sorry. Let's display the comments. My bad, guys.
So to my knowledge, when you take these orally, you lose bioavailability. That's why it's so much better to take it. You take it with a small insulin needle. You're talking like a 31, 32 gauge needle, tiny.
So
Tiny.
I've had a lot of people that are scared of needles, thinking about the needles that they've got at the doctor, whether that's an intramuscular or intravenous shot of antibiotics. There's a lot of people with a needle phobia. So I've had people that have tried them over here. They tried these. It's nothing. It's a pinprick. Not only that, you don't need to do these intramuscular. It's subcutaneous.
Yep.
So it is the tiniest needle. It is like a little prick. Like it hurts less than, it's like a mosquito bite. It's kind of
the word I was looking for, subcutaneous. Yeah, because that is a big difference compared to like if you were taking a test sip, that's intramuscular.
Yeah. Well, you actually can take testosterone subcutaneously as well.
Oh, interesting.
Okay. Yeah, you don't need to take it intramuscular. You can take it subcutaneously as well.
So for you, what would you say the average?
Well, just to go over the bioavailability again, there's a couple factors in terms when it comes to bioavailability, right? So you can take BPC is the only peptide that they've found so far that your gut does not, any other peptide you take, you cannot, that we know of so far, to my knowledge, you cannot take it orally because your gut destroys it. BPC you can take orally. Now, the use for taking it orally would be for Crohn's, would be for IBS, digestive problems, right?
Yeah.
But the research is also showing, at least the clinical research is showing, that it actually is still more effective taking it subcutaneous. And then there is also a myth that I believe for a long time, I actually figured out researching for this show. A lot of people will tell you that you have to locally inject it into the spot of the injury.
Yeah,
that's not necessarily true. You can take it at least the clinical studies from the experts out there, they're suggesting that there's actually more benefit taking it subcutaneous somewhere else, because not only will you get the results that you're looking for with the site of the spot, you will get it everywhere in your entire body.
Yeah, it's pretty cool when they put the radioactive trackers on it, and they were studying someone with a broken wrist, and they radio tagged the BPC-157. Guy took it in his stomach, and 24 hours later when they tested it, it was all on his wrist. Like it knew to go there, which just speaks to how cool the body is, man.
Dude, it's baffling. It's baffling the fact, because you're taking, I know you wanted to get in the dosage, you're taking smaller amounts, right? Like for people that are doing regular maintenance dosage, and some people think BPC is just for injuries. It's not. No. It's for anyone that's active can benefit from BPC, because BPC, and also on top of injury prevention and injury healing, it can also enhance sleep quality, and it also upregulates your growth hormone receptor pathways. So if you're taking like a growth hormone peptide, which we might get into this one, we might get onto the next one, it will actually upregulate and potentiate the potency of them.
So yeah, I would say average maintenance dose for a person that was starting this, it would be 5 milligrams.
Okay, so it's actually micrograms. So most bottles, you can get bigger bottles, but the sizes that it most commonly comes in are 5 milligrams or 10 milligrams. Again, you can get bigger bottles, right? But typically they come in 5 milligram or 10 milligrams. So for a maintenance dose from someone like a gym bro who's not necessarily trying to heal from an injury, they're usually taking about 250 micrograms twice per day. If you're really trying to heal an injury, you want to boost that up more to 500 micrograms twice a day. And sometimes if I just
5 days a week, right? You know, you don't take it
5 days on, 2 days off. That's what I do for all of my supplements. That's what I do for all of my peptides. Why? Because then you don't desensitize the receptors. You give your body 2 days so the receptor pathways can reboot, so you don't develop a tolerance. That's what I do for all of my peptides, all of my vitamins. So it's Saturday today, so I won't be taking, I'm not a pin cushion today. It's one of the rare days.
Nice. So yeah, I would say BPC-157 was a great one to start off with. And then one that almost always gets paired with that is it TB-500 or 5,000?
TB-500. Thymosin beta 500.
So I remember I took that the last cycle. I didn't take it this one. I'm definitely going to try it. But what would you say the research on that for you? But what's your experience actually, personally? Because that's like a testosterone inhibitor? Does it?
No. It's So I'm gonna be some of the stuff I'm gonna read off, guys, because
Yeah,
the
that's cool.
pharmacology gets a lost. I can't even pronounce some of the words. I'm not gonna lie. Again, not experts, right? But it's a synthetic peptide based on thymosin beta 4. That's used to enhance tissue repair and promotes enhance tissue repair, reduce inflammation, and improve muscle recovery and flexibility. It also potentiates wound healing, so you can heal wounds very, very quickly. If you have any cuts, scrapes, my kitten's been clawing the fuck out of me, you can heal that like Wolverine. And that's
So is
typically
that?
paired with BPC.
Yeah.
Typically, people don't take TB-500. TB also upregulates your immune system because thymosin beta 4 is essential for immune health. So you can also take TB-500 if you have any of these immune diseases or immune disorders. But they're typically paired together. I never really hear of somebody just taking TB-500.
Yeah. Same. Now, is that? Would that be the same dosages? Do you know? Is
No,
that a
it's
similar?
actually no, it's actually a different dosage. So with BPC, you're going to take again for this is injury prevention, 500 micrograms in the morning, 500 micrograms in the evening. And also one thing that you can do is if you're taking multiple of these compounds or if you're taking a bunch of supplements, you can actually run through AI and tell them what you're taking because sometimes, albeit minor, they can work on the same pathways, so they can fight over pathways, so you can get decreased results depending on what you're taking too quick to something else.
That's good to know. So that dosage is different.
Yeah,
Okay.
that dosage is different. You want to take 2,000 micrograms twice per week.
Oh, okay. So that's not a 5 day a week one.
No, you take it twice per week.
Now, is that one that you take right now?
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Everything we're going to talk about, I take regularly.
Okay. Yeah, so I would say those are like the two big ones on the health side. And then the other peptide where I have like real mixed feelings about, that's probably the biggest, right? When you think about it, is the semaglutides, right? So that's your Wegovy and all these other quote unquote weight loss semaglutides. But so look, I have some personal experience with this in the sense of my mom took this, right? So I did a bunch of research on it, and most of the time it was given for diabetes. That's how it started. It was not given for weight loss. It was given for diabetes, and there was kind of this loophole in the beginning where insurance companies were just covering, right? So someone like my mother who doesn't have never had diabetes type 1 or 2 was able to go to this clinic and get put on I think it was Wegovy actually. No, it was Ozempic. It was Ozempic. And I told her she wanted to lose weight because my sister was getting married, right? So she does it like 2 years out. She goes, I'm going to lose all this weight. And I was against it because she was about 6 months in, and I go, has he talked to you about your diet, exercise? Is he testing your
They never do, bro.
is he testing your muscle density, bone density? Is he doing any of these things? And she said no. I said, has he talked about an exit strategy, right? Because almost all medicines you should never take in perpetuity, right? There should almost always be an exit strategy. And I said, has he talked about an exit strategy? She goes, no. I go, all right, well, here's my problem with this. One, you're not changing the foundation. Like that's something I believe in always. I said, you're not eating. So what happens is, now I can only speak to her and the research that I did, was a lot of people stop eating. It does suppress your appetite, for sure, but it also makes you super nauseous a lot of times. So people aren't eating because they're nauseous all day, which to me, again, that is surviving, not thriving, right? I think that would be a terrible way.
Is that everyone, or is that just like
No, but that's a common
side effect?
thing. Yeah, side effect. And then another common side, I wouldn't call it common, but this has been documented, is that it does, I can't explain why, but it does something where there is a ton of testimonials where people have to get their gallbladder taken out. It happened to my mother. She started to have excruciating pain, and she's a tough woman. And for like 5 days, she just dealt with it, and then they went and she had to get it taken. They had to get emergency surgery and get it taken out. And the one thing that made me really upset was I told her, I said, look, like insurance is just letting this happen right now. until they could figure out how to make money on it. I said, you're going to wake up one day and it's not going to be $100 a month. It's going to be $2,000. And, so a year and a half later, she went to go back to that doctor and he goes, I'm sorry, we don't take your insurance anymore. This will be $2,000 a month now. And she goes, well, I can't afford that. And he goes, well, it's not my problem. And that was
it's like
that.
a drug dealer. First one's free.
Yeah. No, and that's, and I'm not saying it's bad, right? Because there is a ton of research, right? You got guys like Dr. Peter Attia that think that they work, especially when they're done right, and you have a doctor that is making sure that you're doing resistance training and your diet's clean. Because a big problem with Ozempic and these semaglutides is you actually lose muscle mass when you're not doing those other things, right? If you just take it and you don't change your diet or you don't exercise, a lot of the weight that you lose is muscle mass, right?
If you're
that's
not doing
a good thing.
resistance training.
Exactly. If you're not. And that's where...
Which most of these people aren't, because that's why they're taking it, right? Exactly. They're trying to take that shortcut.
No, exactly. And
there's
that's
no
kind
free
of my
lunch
problem.
with any of this stuff, right? There's no free lunch. If you're taking caffeine, it's not giving you energy. That's borrowed energy. If you're taking high amounts of exogenous testosterone, that's borrowed. There's no free lunch. Everything has a cost.
And that's like kind of my problem with these semaglutides is the research shows when they're used correctly, it works. It does, but the problem is like there's so many variables. You got to have the doctor's got to be on point, the patient's got to be on point, and that rarely happens, man. And what you get instead is like you get a bunch of people that aren't healthy and they get this crazy sucked in face, right? They call it Ozempic face now, and I'm kind of mixed on the semaglutides, if I'm going to be honest with you. In terms of peptides, I just think whenever it comes to weight loss, like you said, there's no free lunch. I think these other peptides, they have such better benefits, especially like when we start to get into like the brain ones, and the sleep ones. Like those are super cool. Like I wish those were the popular ones. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I think they will be, man. Because
I agree.
I got some cool exotic ones. I don't know. We'll probably won't jump on this episode. We'll probably do multiple episodes on peptides, but I got some cool Russian cosmonaut stuff to drop on you guys at some point. But the way I look at Ozempic, it's just a tool, right? Like I would never suggest to somebody to get on SSRIs, but one of my very good friends recently, a few months ago, they were very, very depressed. They got on SSRIs, right? I think there's a million better ways to do it, but they were, sometimes people are so stuck in a rut. And this is where I could see Ozempic or something. I've never taken Ozempic. I have very little knowledge on it. But the way I could see utilizing these tools is sometimes you're just so far lost. You're so far gone. You don't have any motivation. You can't get out of bed. Going to the gym is absolute hell. So where I see there could be an application, because I think damn near everything on this planet, if used the right way, sparingly, with a good plan, I think it can be beneficial. The way I could see Ozempic, again, I've never tried it. This is probably the only peptide we'll talk about that I haven't actually tried or regularly used. But the way, like if it helps somebody lose 20, 30 pounds and gets them confident enough that they can go in the gym and they can change some lives themselves, then maybe there's a use for it. Yeah, but it's one of those things you have to be careful with. You have to do the right way. And the problem with most of these doctors, they don't take a holistic approach. They're not asking you what your diet is. They're not asking you what your sleep is. They go, oh, you're depressed. During COVID, I went to the doctor and I was telling some stuff. And he's like, oh, you sound like you're depressed. I'm like, yeah, of course I'm depressed. I lost my job. Like everything sucks right now. Like, why wouldn't I be depressed? It's like, have you ever considered antidepressants? I said, doc, I think the problem's too many drugs, not enough drugs, dog.
Yeah.
Like,
you listening to what I'm saying here?
Like they just have such a black and white opinion on such a nuanced thing. And again, doctors are amazing. If you have a blood infection, if you have something wrong with your brain, doctors will save your fucking life. Like they're incredible, but you don't know what you don't know. And sometimes the more educated somebody can be, the more ignorant they can be of their blind spots.
Yeah. No, especially in medicine. And that's why we said in the beginning, it's super important. Actually, I want to say this now. When you never buy this stuff on the black market, that's it's Russian roulette. It's not smart. And if you do your research and find a clinic, like do your research. Like make sure you read the reviews, call places, call people, figure out. Don't just go to a clinic because it's the closest one to you. Because like I watched that happen with my mom. That guy shouldn't be in business, man. You know what I'm saying? Like that's not he's not practicing in good faith. So like it all comes down to research. But we'll go on to another peptide. But
Well, before we do that, I want to add something, right? Because the United States, the FDA made it so you can no longer compound BPC. So the problem with that is that's going to drive a lot of attention to the black market. Now, one thing you can do, right? Because not everyone can afford these clinics. One thing I'll just say, I'll frame this so it's personal experience. I'm not giving any advice. If you are going to find a company and do this some other way, make sure that company has a verifiable third-party testing. It must be third-party. It can't be in-house, okay? And even that can be finicky because they could get one batch third-party tested. They could even manipulate those results where they send a product from somebody else to get third-party testing, and now they're using those results and they're showcasing that to you like it's their results. So it can be really, really finicky, and it's very, very important where you get your peptide sources from because peptides are incredibly fragile. They're incredibly fragile. So even if the peptide company is really, really good, depending how they were transported, they're very susceptible to heat damage. And here's another thing. Okay, so I guess we should go into like how to mix the peptides.
Yeah, I was gonna say, let's do that before we go on to the next one.
Well, that'll exactly tie into what we're talking about right now. So when you get your peptides, you want to get bacteriostatic water. Now in Bali, that's not available. I use sterile water. The difference between bacteriostatic water and sterile water is bacteriostatic water has a preservative in it, benzyl alcohol. Benzyl alcohol, you can still use sterile water. It's just not going to have as long as a shelf life. Now, that's not necessarily that much of an issue because with most bottles of BPC, you're typically using them, within 2 weeks. TB, if it's 5 milligram, you might use that in 10 days or something. That's not really an issue. Where it can be an issue is with some of these bigger bottles, like let's say we're doing a GHRP, a growth hormone response peptide. Like, let's say we're using something like that, like ipamorelin, that can last in your fridge a lot longer. So if you do have to use a sterile water, it just won't preserve for as long. So you want bacteriostatic water. And again, they're super, super fragile. So as you're mixing the water into the peptides, you don't want the water to directly hit the peptides. You want to put it in very slow, and you want it to hit the side of the glass. Now, when your peptides aren't mixed, you want to put them in the freezer. That's going to preserve them for long enough. When they are mixed, you need to keep them in the fridge. And certain peptides are also light sensitive. Not necessarily BPC, but things like GHKCU, which is a copper peptide. You also want to cover that in tin foil because the copper is sensitive to light, and that can actually degrade it as well. These are very sensitive compounds.
That's good to know. Okay. So what would you say is in your stack, your next favorite, more of a common one?
Well, it's okay. So I play around a lot with the GHRP, which are basically growth hormone receptor peptides.
Yeah, explain those. When I was doing research for this, there's a ton about that, and just the benefits of getting, it basically just increases your ability to get growth hormone, right? Like the way that you make it.
Exactly. So it's actually more ideal in a lot of ways than actually basically all they're doing is they're stimulating your body's ability. They're stimulating your pituitary gland so you create more growth hormone.
Gotcha.
Now, why is this better than actually taking a growth hormone, but taking some HGH? One, more cost effective. Something like HGH, especially if it's real, if you're getting HGH and it's cheap, chances are it's incredibly fake. And again, it's a really sensitive compound. So even in transit, it can be damaged, right? So if you're taking the ones I'm taking, the two most common ones right now are CJC NODAC and ipamorelin. Now, you can take them twice a day in the morning fasted, and then you can take them at night. You just have to make sure you really, ideally 2 hours after eating, because if you have any kind of insulin response, that's going to affect the way the growth hormone is uptaken.
Oh, okay. And what's the dosages on those? How does that work?
100 micrograms of each. CJC NODAC, 100 micrograms, and ipamorelin, 100 micrograms. And then again, if you're stacking it with your BPC upregulates those pathways, so they're going to potentiate the effects.
Yeah, I saw that, which is really cool. would and that really just comes back to, if I cannot stress enough, if you have all these other foundations down and then you take these peptides, you will see monumental changes. As opposed to if you just take these and you're still not sleeping, you're not really eating good, you go to the gym sometimes, you're just going to see marginal gains. And another thing that happens, and there's a lot of clinical data on this, that if you aren't really healthy and you're taking these huge stacks of peptides, you actually burn. You get like a burnout. What happens is a lot being tired, erratic, anger, that uncontrollable anger, not uncontrollable, unexplainable anger, and it's because like you're adding something very strong on top of a broken signal, right? So I thought that was interesting, that a lot of people, if you're not too healthy and you're doing like a real stack, it actually just have the opposite effect. You could just turn out making yourself more tired, which I thought that was interesting. I listened to two people
Really, with
talk about
peptides
that.
as well.
Yeah, if you're taking, this was about, so he was talking about entrepreneurs. So there's like literally entrepreneurial stacks, right? It's like a bunch of different ones. And he said what he found was that if these guys like aren't sleeping, aren't eating good, and they're taking like a 4 to 5 different peptide stack, it actually has the opposite effect. And it's just because none of the other things are working, right? So like it's adding something very complex on top of just a broken system. And I thought that was pretty interesting.
I've been a little bit tired lately. I feel like you're coming at me right now, bro.
Not. So, dude, talk about the sleep peptide. I think that one is so interesting, man.
That's one of my absolute favorite. And again, like peptides are really, really cool because there's so many different uses for them. People think peptides. I don't know what a normal person thinks when they think.
No, they
peptides.
think muscles, dude. They think muscle recovery and weight loss. That's it. They don't understand. It goes so much deeper than that. No, it's totally what they think.
There's some for literally everything, for healing diseases, for cognitive improvement. I think GHK, and we'll get more in depth. I'll name some of them. Like one of the ones, and we'll get more in depth on another episode. Epithalone, something I'm doing a 10-day stack of at 10 milligrams a day, or 10 milligrams a day split into 2 5-milligram dosages. And that actually lengthens your telomeres.
Which is
when you lengthen your telomeres, when you get older, your telomeres shorten, and that's the aging process. So they've found doing a stack of this twice per year can lengthen your telomeres and reverse aging. There's ones for literally one of my favorite ones right now that I take 5 days on, 2 days off is DSIP. That's deep sleep inducing peptide. It promotes deeper, more restful sleep by regulating sleep cycles and reducing stress.
Yeah, the sleep ones are super interesting to me. I think those are really going to catch on, because there's a lot of people that are taking medication to go to bed. You see Tim Nikhil.
Yeah, it cracked me up. I was trying
what's the other one? Sampac? What's the other
Semax.
sleep one? Semax.
Semax is more of a Russian nootropic. It's an anti-anxiolytic, and it also promotes cognitive enhancement. It's used by Russian astronauts. If you guys want the most alpha for any kind of supplements, nutrition, weightlifting, whatever it is, you need to check out what Russians are studying. Why? Because Russians have state-sponsored doping programs. In the United States, it's a free market. It's capitalism, right? If you want to be a steroid cheater or whatever it is, you got to pay for that for yourself. You got to pay for your own scientists. When you have a country like Russia with some of the best scientists in the world doing state-sponsored doping, creating their own molecules, you get some amazing results. And there is some amazing Russian cosmonaut nootropics, drugs, Semax, Selank, Phenibut, all incredible Russian cosmonaut drugs. Semax is really interesting, man. I wasn't really prepared. Semax, you wouldn't take Selank for sleep. You wouldn't want to take Semax either for sleep, because it actually has more of like a boosting effect for some people.
Oh, okay.
It is a relaxing agent. Like, it does make you more relaxed, but some people have found that it also kind of stimulates you as well. So it's not necessarily taken for sleep. Now, where it is cool is it's a cognitive enhancer, but it also kind of relaxes you. Now, it works on your GABA receptors, but what it's doing, because usually most drugs that work on your GABA receptors, for example, GHB or Xanax, right? Those work on your benzodiazepines in general. Those work on your GABA receptors, but they end up depleting your GABA receptors. And GABA drugs are some of the most dangerous known to man. Those are some of the ones that if you actually get off too quickly, you can die. You can die. But the interesting thing about this is it affects your GABA receptors, but it also upregulates them. So it almost feels like a microdose of Xanax or something, or so I'm told. But at the same time, it's upregulating those receptors. It has anti-addictive properties, and there's no dependency from it.
That's interesting.
It's very interesting.
Now, is methylene blue considered a peptide?
You would consider it, yeah. I don't know if it's considered a peptide. You know what? Like, I'm going to be honest. I haven't actually tried methylene blue.
So I could talk about methylene blue.
Yeah, please.
It's so like for me, I did some research into it, right? Like I saw it on Rogan. I saw it on these podcasts. I saw RFK Jr. put it in his water, and I was like, all right, let me check this out. And it's actually pretty interesting, right? So it started off as literally like a dye, literally just like a dye for, I think it was like fabric dye. But then in the same sentence, it's actually one of the first drugs ever prescribed back in the 1800s.
It's like an aquarium.
And essentially what it does is it brings oxygen. It charges up the mitochondria. That's really what it's doing, and it kind of brings like oxygen to the blood in the mitochondria. It kind of like helps power the like from a cellular level, kind of charges up. I forget what it's called, the electro chain. But
you're on on this one.
It does wake you up, right? So it's not something that I would take every day. Like I've had a bottle up there for 2 months now, right? So I take it like before the Flip the Stock Market podcast. I take it then, and it's like 6 to 8 drops. It's really interesting because it will turn your pee blue or green.
I would take it just for that.
But it does do, how would I explain it? If you take too much, you could feel it because it feels like you drank like 7 Monsters, right? You get very jittery.
I'm ordering it right now.
But at a low dose, it does, it kind of clears your brain fog. It helps you dial in. Like it's one of those supplements that you 100% feel. It's not like I don't think it's a placebo because I would only take it max 3 times a week. I would never take it every day. There's people that do that. I just didn't because there was like something. There was like something to the fact that like it turns your mouth blue, it turns your pee blue, which is really cool though because when you combine it with red light therapy, it enhances it. Because the way red light works, right? So that's like a one of those like biohacker things that a lot of these like super wealthy biohackers are doing is they take like kind of high doses of methylene blue and then they sit in like a full body red light therapy thing, and it just like exacerbates the effects of it, which I thought was pretty cool. Like you could like take this and just like have the red light. Like some people just do it over their head, like they'll take it and they'll just have like a red light thing over their head. But yeah, methylene blue is pretty interesting, but it also like definitely turns I want to say it turns like your organs kind of blue too. Pretty sure that's true, which I don't know how I feel about that, right?
Like a powerlifting Smurf, bro.
Yeah, dude, I don't know how I feel about that.
It's funny. I've heard about methylene blue so much. I think I was struggling because I'm obviously in Bali right now, and the problem with Bali, it's very hard to get affordable supplements here because there's a very high import fee. So there's an abundance of black market supplements that skirt around these import fees. But if you want actually anything quality, it's very, very expensive. Some of the most expensive supplements I've found anywhere in the world. And as a result, there's a lot of white label kind of knockoffs on existing products. And methylene blue is especially one of those. Like, you need to make sure that's good. You need to make sure because you can't just buy the aquarium stuff. There's no regulation. There's going to be a lot of impurities, potential toxins. It's going to be very dangerous.
Oh, dude, like I would say that's probably one of the most like knocked off supplements right now.
Absolutely.
And there's like lab tested and then there's pharmaceutical tested, and those are two different things because,
Yep.
again, methylene blue is used as a dye, so it's used in research as a dye, like like when they're doing stuff under microscopes, and like that methylene blue is not good for you, super toxic. Yeah, so that, like, I remember the one that I got, I did a ton of research, and it wasn't cheap, and that's just, I feel like that kind of happens with supplements, like you get what you pay for at a certain point. But yeah, I think methylene blue is interesting. I'm curious. That's one of those ones where I want to see the research 5 years from now, right? Like I want to see what happens to the people that have been taking it every day for the last
I
year.
heard
For the next 3
RFK talk
years.
normally before he started taking it.
Yeah, dude. So like the amount in that video, the amount that he put in, dude, that was like, I don't know, 5 times the amount I would put in a glass. Like it literally says on the thing, like 5 to 7 drops. That dude was just like, I'm gonna put the whole bottle in.
Bro, he's 71 and he looks fantastic. Like whatever he's doing, like
I want to know what peptide stack my man's on.
well, he's definitely on TRT. There's 0%
too.
chance you're not on
Yeah.
TRT. That guy's on the good peptide. He got access to all the labs, man. He just goes in like, give me the good shit.
Yeah, for sure. So what would you say? So here, for the people that were
Oh, why don't I talk about my deep sleep inducing peptide? Because we got a little bit off topic. I
Yeah.
typically take between 750 micrograms to 1,000 micrograms, and I take that I take that 5 times per week. I take 2 days off, and I've found a profound difference. And so now it's not going to make you go to sleep quicker. On another show, we'll go on some biohacking, my sleep stack, red light before bed, all the things that you can do to actually enhance your sleep, because I feel like that's really important. We kind of jumped the gun. We're like, you got to build the right foundations. Here's Russian cosmonaut peptide. We'll go over some of this foundational stuff. But deep sleep inducing peptide, it's not something that's just going to knock you off, make you fall asleep really quickly. What it's going to do is it's going to enhance your deep sleep. There's 3 stages of sleep, right? There's your REM, there's your non-REM, there's the deep sleep. And in that deep sleep, this is the same reason bodybuilders used to take GHB, because in that deep sleep, that's where your body does its deep regeneration. That's where your growth hormone pulses. So the longer, and I've tracked my sleep and taken these things before, and the longer you're in this deep sleep, usually you get, it's all cyclical. It goes about every 90 minutes, right? It's the same reason why people suggest, instead of sleeping 7 hours, you should either sleep 7.5 or you should sleep 6. Why? Because you want to wake up when you're at the most shallow level of your sleep. You know how sometimes you wake up, you feel, even if you slept the same amount, you wake up, you feel recharged, you feel refreshed. It's because you woke up at the top of your sleep cycle. When you wake up at the bottom of your sleep cycle, you feel groggy, really hard to get up. It's really hard. It seems counterintuitive. You'd think 7 hours of sleep is better than 6 hours. It's not. 7.5 is better than 7 or better than 6. But if you can't do that full 90 minutes, then it's better to wake up at 6. So I've done sleep tracking before, and I've found with using some of these different molecules, I had exponentially more deep sleep. And again, the more deep sleep you actually have, the more recharged, refreshed, the more growth hormone you're going to endogenously produce.
Oh, what is that peptide when I was doing research that literally like helps reset your circadian rhythm? Is that this one?
It could be this one, but epithalone actually does that as well.
No, that was it. Epithalone.
Epithalone helps so yeah, it has effect on your pineal, and it resets your circadian rhythm, but it also lengthens your telomeres. And the cool thing about that is you don't have to do it 5 days on, 2 days off. You do one cycle of it, 10 milligrams split. The first shot I did, because I just read 10 milligrams and just shot it in my stomach, it really fucking burned. I've learned some lessons. One is you really need to do the research to make sure your peptide or your compound, for instance, glutathione. The first time I took glutathione injectable, I did not dilute it enough. I took too large of a dose. My body had a reaction to. I had a fucking golf ball welt on my ass, bro. It was like, it looked like a baseball was coming out of my butt cheek, bro. And it's because I didn't dilute it enough. And there's certain compounds, specifically glutathione, if it's too cold or if it's not diluted enough, you can get these really intense reactions. NAD can be the same. Epithalone, I found out, could be the same because you inject that subcutaneously.
Dude, talk about NAD. I feel like that's one we should talk about before we leave. NAD that's
going to be a whole episode.
That's a whole thing. Okay,
That's a
yeah,
whole
that is
thing,
that's a great one.
NAD is basically, we can talk about my NAD stack, which is a little cliffhanger. It's NAD plus mixed with methylated B12 later in the day, TMG, as well as 5-amino-1-MQ, which is another peptide that we can get on. But I think we're basically at an hour, bro. We could do like 5 episodes.
So
on
what
peptides.
would you say, right? So if you were to pick, say, a stack of like 3 peptides, what would you pick? And we'll give the dosages again, just so people that are listening or people could go back and listen. What would you say the 3 would be that you?
Can I do 4?
4? Yeah, sure. 4.
Can I do 4? Because 2 of them work very synergistically together.
Yeah, for sure.
I think the 4 that we talked about today, I think BPC, because whether you have an injury or you're just looking to counter inflammation, they've also done some studies too suggesting that BPC can actually regenerate organs. Now, I don't know how much comprehensive stuff, but there's been some anecdotal or at least clinical studies suggesting that BPC can help offset things like liver disease, which is very interesting. Again, I don't know if this is verified, but there's been some anecdotal at least studies. So I would say BPC, if you're doing an injury, 500 micrograms in the morning, in the evening. If you're just doing maintenance, if you're a bodybuilder, whatever it is, you're just looking to counter anti-inflammation, maybe joint pain because you're cutting for a competition, 250 micrograms. You split that in half, once in the morning, once in the evening. DSIP, you can experiment around with the minimum effective dose. For me, that's anywhere from 500 micrograms to 1,000 micrograms, 2 hours before bed. I usually rock around 750. But again, I'm still like, if you're really serious about your sleep, you can get a sleep tracker. Change your dosage around. Play with these different things. See where it affects you. Look, like, you don't have to take anyone's word for it. You can get biohacking apparatuses and you can see directly how they impact yourself. You can see, does this actually work? Is this actually effective? And if you really want to get serious about this stuff, you have to do the same thing with your blood tests.
I was about to say, thank God you said that. Yeah. Blood tests for sure, man. 100%.
So DSIP, and then if you want some of these growth hormone stimulating peptides, ipamorelin stacked with CJC, NODAC, 100 micrograms at least once a day. Some people, like myself, do it in the morning and the evening. Some people just do it in the evening.
All right, so we had BPC-157,
the DSIP,
which is deep. What does that stand for?
Deep inducing peptide.
Inducing peptide. How do you say it? Ipamorelin?
I say it ipamorelin, but I think ipamorelin. Oh, I think that's what Huberman was saying the other day.
Gotcha. And then what was the 4th one?
CJC NODAC. Now you can also get CJC DAC. There's 2 different things, right?
Yeah, explain that real quick before we go, just so they understand.
The benefit of CJC with DAC is it pulses longer in your system. So it's actually going to release more growth hormone, which can make it more effective depending on your goals. If you're trying to really put on muscle and stuff, you can get more bang for your buck with that. The problem is it's not normal. Growth hormone only pulses, like once a night or, a couple times a night when you're actually. And so when you get the NODAC, it mimics your own growth hormone production more naturally. And by mimicking your own growth hormone production more naturally, you're not going to get any of the potential side effects. Because if you overstimulate your pituitary and those pathways, your body can build a dependency on it. And if you get that dependency when you go off those peptides, your body, similar to on TRT, your body's not going to produce them on its own.
Yeah.
So I do NODAC. I do CJC NODAC.
Awesome. Yeah, I think, we hit an hour. That was perfect. We went through the basics. That was a lot of fun, man.
Shit, you just cut out right at the end for me.
Am I still there? Can you hear me? Can you guys hear me? Is it doing this again? All right, well, I would say this was a great first episode. Let me just tell him closing thoughts. Yeah, this was a great episode. We're going to do this once a week. We're going to pick a topic, go through it like this. And let me see if these guys could still hear me. They could hear me. Shine. They could hear me. So that's so funny. We'll get this down. We'll get the back end down. Probably call Tim to kill. Let him help me. And I appreciate you guys coming in. We're going to do this once a week. It's going to be a format. We're going to talk about a specific thing. And yeah, I just appreciate you guys tuning in. Look forward to doing this in the future every week. This is the grind. This is the Giga Motion. All right. You're good, Sean.
Most of us often chase rather pumps than established memes. And a green candle is somehow spoiled for us until it's screenshot. We stare at charts, forgetting it changes nothing. We watch charts, but not ourselves. This is a disaster. For as a result of confusing dopamine hits with actual profit, we are destroying our net worth. We are so tied up in FOMO and charts that we've lost all conviction. Time to wake up. What is alpha? Obviously, nobody can say, because it isn't just drawing lines on charts. It isn't rotation meta, that's just an idea. Alpha is the giga cycle cannot be explained in words.